Hey everybody, today we're going to be taking a quick look at this ASUS Zephyrus Duo. This is the GX551, and I'll give you the full model number on the bottom when we flip it over. But I'm going to do a quick look at this particular unit. I have not spent a lot of time with this unit myself, so you're going to be seeing a lot of my kind of first reactions to a device like this. We've had a couple similar ones in the shop, but not this particular Duo, the GX551 model, and so I thought it'd be helpful to do a kind of a quick walk around on the form factor, because it is pretty unique, as you're seeing here with this extra screen right here. So what you're looking at here is kind of the head-on view when it's open, what it looks like. You're going to notice that this screen here is raised up, and as far as I can tell, this is pretty much fixed in relation to the angle here of your screen. So you can see as I close the lid here, that's going to go up and down here your smaller screen. So that is something a little bit unique. You know, some of the other units we've had in the shop with dual screens have an adjustable screen right here, whereas this one is kind of fixed at an angle. It's not fixed in that horizontal position. So kind of something unique there. But let's take a look first at the specs, and then we'll jump around to the form factor and take a look at the different angles of it. So let's pull up some screens here. First, we'll pull up the about on this particular computer and show what specs are on this particular build. All right, so you can see there, this one is equipped with the Ryzen 7, the 5800H, with the built-in Radeon graphics on the chipset there, clocking in at 3.2 gigahertz on the processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and this one did come with Windows 11 there. Windows 11 Home, in fact. All right, so those are the basic specs on it. Let's take a look at the device manager here. So you can see this one came with, of course, the Radeon, the chipset built on the motherboard. It also has the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060. And for those curious on the graphics memory, this one has a total of 6 gigs on the graphics memory and then shared about 8 gigs on that. All right, so that's pretty nice that it has that built in to this particular unit. Then for those who need more information, you can see the SSD there, the processor all expanded out, and let me get the network adapters too for those curious. Feel free to pause the video if you need to there. All right, so those are the basic specs. Let's look at the screen resolution here, the native screen resolution. That's always helpful to know. Whoops. I tell you what, this mouse clicker, I apologize, but it's taken me a little bit to get used to the way it clicks, and I've got a big thumb, and so my finger is tapping the right click repeatedly here. All right, so this one has native screen resolution of 1920 by 1080, and this is, I believe, a 15.6 inch display, if I'm not mistaken there. All right, and then last thing I'll show you is the visible or usable accessible hard drive space. You can see it has a 1 terabyte. And out of that, with the operating system installed, we just reset everything. You're going to be left with 886 gigs approximately out of the usable 930 gigabytes there. So not too bad once all those system files are on there. And then we'll take a look at the battery last here. You can get some basic information there on how much it's estimated to last. I've got the screen brightness cranked up all the way to the max here. So about 2 hours and 16 minutes on a half charge. So we could estimate and say maybe about 4 hours or so. It's not too bad. It'd probably get a lot better if you dim the screen a little bit. But yeah, that's basically the specs. So let's take a look at the form factor here and what this extra screen actually does for you. So you can see right here, it is at an angle, so I think that helps with the colors and the vibrancy, you know, compared to being flat. Makes everything a little bit more at the viewing angle of your eye line anyway, especially if you're looking kind of, you know, down from your eyes to this screen here. You can see right here, we're just open on a Windows desktop screen. There's not a whole lot going on. It's just basically the desktop, but you do, however, have some little shortcut things up here. And I believe ASUS is responsible for adding these. So it's almost like a touch bar on a MacBook, only you've got it off to the side here. So you've got some things like brightness, I guess location, a couple other things here, link to my ASUS, a couple other different shortcut buttons here. Not quite sure what all of them do. And so I'll just tap on them so you can see real quickly. All right. The sound is not too bad, by the way. When I was tapping on some of those, it was making some different sound effects there. And it sounds like there's some bass, there's some presence there, so that's pretty good. But yeah, so this is basically a touch screen down here, whereas this up here is not a touch screen. So this is just a regular screen. And this is going to be your touch screen down here. It feels very responsive. You can see as I'm drawing boxes, it's tracing and following my finger very well. I'm not dropping or losing anything along the way, so that's pretty nice here. I will say you can see this in the video, I think pretty clearly. The brightness of this main display is brighter than this display down here. I mean, this one does look a little bit, if I'm being critical, a little bit washed out. And I think what you're seeing in the video is pretty accurate to what I'm seeing in real life. I mean, it definitely looks like you're looking at a screen at an angle. So I'm not sure if they could have chosen a better vendor for the LCD down here, or the display, the LED display, maybe one that shows up a little bit brighter at extreme angles. But you know, to be fair, we are looking at it probably at a, I don't know, 35 35, 40 degree angle, something like that, hitting this. So, but the actual functional use of this is going to vary based on the app that you're running. And we'll just open up a Windows Explorer app and kind of show you nothing changes down there. In fact, I'm curious if I can drag this. Yeah, so you can drag something down here and it kind of snaps to the display. You can see it. Yeah, it kind of snapped to the height there. I had to maximize it still, but obviously ASUS has done some work there to help make use of this display. So then I can, again, use my finger down here on the lower portion. But I imagine it varies greatly as far as apps like Photoshop or other, workstation apps, as far as what kind of support you actually get here. You might have to be manually dragging a window down to this touchscreen portion to make use of it. And I don't think that's such a big deal, really. The fact that you then can make use of it down here and have something else up top still seems like a pretty good idea there. All right, so let me give you some more close-ups of the screen here and kind of what that looks like, the angle and the mechanism in here. It looks pretty robust. I'm feeling in here, it feels like it's a metal piece of some kind of alloy, that arm that's going up in there. In fact, I can see in there, I don't know if you can make out in the lighting here, but it looks like, I'm not sure if that's I'm assuming that's ventilation for the heatsink here, but I'm seeing a round kind of a mesh vent just on this right side here. Well, actually there's one on both sides, so we'll look at the other one when we hop over there. But otherwise it's pretty much plain and flat underneath the display here. And you can see they've got a little warning message here that says, keep clear of moving parts, I guess for legal reasons. But let me just show you what that action looks like again. So you can see it's pretty robust the way it's tucked up under there, and it's linked to that hinge. So basically as that hinge folds, every time it's gonna automatically go flat. So pretty neat the way they designed that. And again, this only sticks up about, I'd say a little bit over an inch on the bottom here. On the bottom of the screen itself, you can see obviously this screen here is raised up a little bit so that this is not impairing your viewing of the actual screen. And then they've got a little bit of some of that kind of what you see on ASUS, that little dots, all along the bottom to have some visual interest. I do see two holes right here in the center bottom. So I'm assuming those might be microphones perhaps, or some other kind of sensor. And then you can see it's got the ROG Zephyrus kind of logo in a more of a satin or semi-gloss finish compared to this kind of matte flat finish on the outside. And of course you got your marketing stickers there from NVIDIA and Ryzen and all that good stuff there. Let's take a look at the keyboard though. It's kind of an interesting form factor, being that this is a 15.6 inch display. Because they don't have room for the touchpad down here, they kind of had to get creative and move the touchpad over here to the right side. And so you'll see it is a little bit smaller. In fact, let me pull out my ruler here so you can get an idea of what that size is. So it looks like it's about 2 1/4 wide across here. And then we're looking at about 3 1/4 tall. So it is substantially smaller than a typical trackpad, probably I'd say about 2/3 to half the size of a regular trackpad. And then you've got your left and right click down here. And I will say this really took me a while to get used to. I mean, I think I'm still getting used to it. As I click on here, the way I want to rest my thumb, it's so big it wants to come over here and land on both buttons at the same time. And so I found myself kind of clicking on the left, but also hitting the right inadvertently. So that's just something to consider. If you've got larger hands, you're gonna have to slide that thumb over and kind of keep it more at a 90-degree angle perpendicular to the button as opposed to at an angle. That's just more comfortable for me personally. But that is the trackpad. You know, it kind of is what it is because you have this giant then touchscreen up here that kind of compensates for the lack thereof. And then I'll let you look at the keys on the keyboard. You can see it does have some different RGB lighting behind those different keys there, and I would imagine you can change those probably in the settings to some degree. It looks like right now it's just kind of fading from one set of colors all the way across to the other. You got some hotkeys along the top there, and then of course you have your kind of your standard ASUS buttons there as well. And it looks like you can turn this into maybe a calculator if I'm reading this icon right. I'm going to tap it and see. Oh, yep, sure enough. Look at that. So then you have your number keypad. So that's kind of a neat little feature actually to make use of all this space. So when you tap it, let's see. Okay, maybe I need to get rid of this on the screen here first. Something just popped up on the screen. Yeah, so basically once it's in this calculator mode, you cannot use this as a trackpad naturally. Now let's see if I can get out of it. All right, so it's not wanting to get out of it. That's kind of interesting. Let me see if I need to tap another button or something to get it. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. So maybe you just had to hold down on it for a second. I also was toggling, this controls your second screen option. You can see when you hit that, turn second screen on. And so then it, yep, just kind of cycles through there. A little bit of a delay there as it adjusts the settings. So anyway, like I said, I'm just kind of learning this for the first time as I'm seeing it in hand. So we're kind of seeing it both at the same time first. That's the keyboard there. Let's flip around to the side here. We're on the right side first and just take a look at some of these ports on the laptop. So first up, we've got two higher speed USB. They have a 10 next to them. So both 10 on the speed, and then another USB-C. It also looks like a 10 as well. It's really tiny print there. And then you've got, of course, your heat sink and ventilation there connected to what I pointed out on top earlier before. You'll see there is a little bit of a footrest to give some elevation for ventilation as well. Let's flip it around to the left side, take a look at the ports here. So we've got kind of basically a mirror image except for the ports. So more ventilation here, heat sink and the fins in there, and then more ventilation on top. So that's kind of nice how it's symmetrical. And then on this side, you're gonna have micro SD slot, your power, your DCN, and then your tri-port for microphone and headset. So really simple layout on the front of the casing, nothing really going on there. It's all just casing, real plain and simple. It's a little bit of a beveled edge going down to the bottom there. And then let's flip it over to the back. So really traditional, you know, when I think of ASUS laptops, kind of with the little pins all across the little dots all across the lid, really traditional there. This one doesn't have as much going on behind the pins. You know, some of them have kind of almost like a hologram or kind of a holographic pattern with different colors, like a rainbow kind of hidden beneath the pins. This one's just plain. There's not another layer to it behind it, but still nice design. And then on the back side, this is kind of nice, they give you an Ethernet port. So that's something unexpected. And then it looks like another USB 10 on the back, and then an HDMI as well. So it's got pretty decent ports, I would say. More ventilation on the back there. You can kind of see in what that looks like on both sides. Not too bad. And then let's flip it over to the bottom and take a look at what we've got here. So again, you got those big feet on the bottom. I like that, how they elevate it so you've got some good ventilation. And real typical with ASUS, you know, they seem to do this where they incorporate in the design, and it's always kind of moving in a different direction, some fins and vents there for cooling as well. Then it looks like down here a little bit more. They do look like they're perhaps functional right here, very small. And then some more openings down here. I'm gonna guess these are, I'm trying to look in the hole there if I can see a speaker. It's hard to see what is in there, so I'm not sure if that's strictly for cooling or if there is a speaker. I can see fans on both of these through the mesh. Can't quite tell what's going on here, but I'm guessing it might be speakers perhaps. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Let me hold it right here if you need to pause it and get the full model. So again, it's GX551Q, and then the full model is over here, QM-ES76. All right, so that is the full configuration that's going to point back to this exact unit with the Ryzen and the NVIDIA and everything else there. So folks, that's kind of my quick review and walk around on this particular unit. Like I said, fresh, first time I'm really taking a look at this guy. It's got some really interesting features, but would love to hear from your feedback in the comments below. Let us know 3 things that you like about this particular unit and 3 things that you dislike. So I'm just going to share mine real quick on the fly and come up with 3 that I like to start us off. So first one that I like how this screen is elevated compared to units I've seen that have a similar form factor that are flat. I do think elevating this makes it a little bit easier to use. It changes the viewing angle to make things look more natural and brighter, you know, compared to the ones that are flat. So I do like that a lot. One thing that I also like, a second, is, you know, at first I wasn't real thrilled on the size of this trackpad, but I do like how it toggles with that number keypad, and there it is again. So you can see that is a really cool feature. I think that really, to me, makes this smaller size bearable, at least, that they incorporated that number keypad in there. So that's another like. And then third like, I'm just gonna say the overall aesthetics on these ASUS laptops. I think they do a good job of, you know, making with the design, the industrial designers that lay all this out and come up with the different textures and designs. I just think they do a real nice design. It's not overdone, it's tasteful. There's a lot of interest on it throughout. Let me talk about 3 things that I dislike on it. First one's gonna be going back to this trackpad. These buttons for me are really small and very hard to use for my big fingers. I mean, you can see my thumb is basically the size of this one button here. And so that just makes it a little bit difficult for me to use personally. I mean, I get it. You've got this big touchscreen up here, and so there has to be a, you know, at some point a concession and a compromise there. But I think I would get tired of this and probably pull out maybe an external mouse or something to compensate for that. So that is one dislike there. You know, second dislike, it kind of has to do a little bit with Windows and ASUS, but you know, when you're incorporating a unique feature like this that maybe Windows hasn't completely factored in their software developers to their platform, it's not going to be seamless across the board. I mean, as you saw when I dragged a window down, I had to maximize it myself. It did snap a little bit, but there's always going to be that disconnect where, you know, ASUS maybe added their touches on top of it, some things running in the background to make this screen work with Windows, but it's not always going to be seamless. So on that, I've got to knock it one on the software compared to a vendor like maybe Apple, where, you know, they control the software and the hardware, and it's going to be a little bit more incorporated. And then let's see, on a third dislike, I'm trying to think what I'm not as big on here. You know, I guess I'd have to say maybe this main screen to me doesn't seem as vibrant as some of the other laptops, and I think I'm still at full brightness if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean, we're still at full brightness. So I just think this feels just a little bit on the dim side compared to some of the other units. I don't think that shows in the video very well, but just in you know, in real life, as I look at this display, it just seems a little bit dimmer compared to some of the other laptops that we've tested here in the shop. So those are my 3 likes, 3 dislikes. But again, love to hear your 3 likes and dislikes in the comments below. I hope this video was helpful. For those who don't know, JBrokers is a risk-free secondhand marketplace, and we buy and sell all kinds of items, mainly gadgets. We also buy things like guitars and collectibles, cameras, things like that. Pretty much anything worth over $200 in value, or $100 in value rather, that's easy to ship. And so if you've got something you're looking to sell, don't mess with Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or eBay. Just come straight to us. We're going to take care of you. You don't have to worry about all the scams and the fraud that you have to deal with, the sketchy characters that you got to watch out for when you're trying to sell things. We will take care of all that for you and give you a lump sum of cash up front. So check us out at jaybrokers.com. That's JAYbrokers.com. Thanks for watching.